Matt, thank you so much. Stay warm. Well, with all the anticipation for Sunday's Saints game, we may have found the one person who just might be the mother of all super fans for the New Orleans Saints. Now, his name is William Taylor. He lives in Thibodaux, and he is commonly known as the unofficial Saints historian. Why is that? Because not only does he know just about everything there is to know about the Saints, he probably has the trinkets to back it all up. Jim Shannon explains.
CBS Television Sports presents the National Football League.
The date was September 17th, 1967, the very first Saints play in their history, a run back for a touchdown against the Los Angeles Rams. This man, William Taylor, was not born then, but I can assure you he knows everything about that Saints team and each one since.
There was a lot of little knickknacks along the way in club history I didn't even know about until I read some old catalogs.
All over Taylor's home is Saints memorabilia he has accumulated over the years, one of the finest collections anyone has ever seen. For example, this original one-page contract during the team's first year. But his specialty is video and audio history.
He'll set a National Football League record in addition to winning the game. I don't believe this. It's good! I don't believe it!
Jerseys first. It's really interesting when you look at the timeline from the 60s to today, how the jerseys have evolved. Players have gotten bigger, so the tailoring of the uniforms have gotten bigger.
Aside from his collection, Taylor lives and breathes Saints football. And as you can expect, this year is...
It's overwhelming. I can't believe it. I still think I'm living a dream. It's after what happened last year, you didn't even know if this team was going to come back. So you put it all together, I think it's... I'm not sure if we're ever going to have this kind of euphoria for a long time to come. It's incredible.
In Thibodaux, Jim Shannon, WAFB 9 News.
Now make sure to watch our Saints special Heaven on the Horizon tonight. We'll take a look at the history of the Saints. We'll take a look at the good times we had. And of course there were the bad times. You'll meet a man some call the biggest Saints fan ever, Buddy D. Join WAFB's Steve Schneider and Jacques Doucet for Heaven on the Horizon, a special program just for you tonight at 6:30 right here on WAFB. Now,
And the New Orleans Saints are now active in regular season play in the National Football League as John Gibbons.
1967, the Saints come marching in for the first time. Over the years, the march became more like a crawl, long, frustrating, disappointing. Taking the boys in black and gold 21 years just to get a winning season. Through it all, die-hard Saints fans were there, although not always willing to admit it. At times, even head coaches had their doubts.
We couldn't do diddly-poo offensively.
Moses searched nearly 40 years for the promised land, and so had the Saints. 2007, 4 decades later, the Saints finally see heaven on the horizon. Live from Chicago, Illinois, here's Steve Schneider and Jacques Doucet.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Windy City for our WAFB viewers and our sister stations in places like Biloxi, my hometown of Hattiesburg, Lake Charles, and Shreveport.
Well, Steve, we're broadcasting live from Harry Caray's, of course, the famous Cubs broadcaster. Cubs win. It's a great scene tonight. Lots of black and gold in the house to be with us, and rightfully so.
It is the biggest game the New Orleans Saints have ever played, and Scott Vegeta, their linebacker, said he can't even sleep. He is so excited, and it's really the way we are, the way the fans are. Everybody's wound up about this big event.
Absolutely, and you take a look back all the way to training camp, so many questions surrounding this team, whether it was Deuce McAllister and his knee, Drew Brees and his shoulder, an offensive line that couldn't block anybody, or a linebacking core nobody knew about. It's all come together.
It has come together, and probably what the Saints fans are most excited about, all the weapons on offense and the way they've played in big games like the Dallas Cowboys nationally televised game on Sunday night. Of course, you've got the running stars that can also catch the football, like Reggie Bush.
That's right, Steve. Reggie Bush this year, an NFL rookie record with 88 grabs. Of course, Drew Brees, 4,400 yards through the air, 26 touchdowns. And Former LSU Tiger, Devery Henderson, a lot of people are labeling him as a bust, waiting for him to come around. 23 yards a catch this year as well.
Drew Brees gave this football team not only a great quarterback who can read defenses and make all the throws, but a guy who has led this offense to be so productive.
And Steve, at training camp, there was this guy, number 12, who I didn't even pay any attention to at the time, Marcus Colston, who was a 7th-round pick, almost not drafted at all, a 1,000-yard receiver for the Saints this year, 8 touchdowns, and of course, I think everyone would agree the face of this franchise still is Deuce McAllister.
He is the heart and soul, and he's also a very talented guy who does it all and seems to do it in the big games here down the stretch.
And today, some of the Bears talking about going up against this strong Saints offense, well, they're having trouble getting some sleep themselves.
And scoring at will, obviously that's the biggest fear. You know, if I have any nightmares this year, that would be the one. You know, if I have any nightmares, it's seeing, you know, all of those different Saints players in the end zone doing a dance, you know what I mean, that I probably worked on because I want to get in the end zone, but I'm not going to be able to do it because they're doing it right now.
Well, of course, that Saints offense, whether or not they'll be able to perform in the snow, we'll see about that. We'll talk about that coming up later on.
And, of course, we're just getting started here in Chicago. Later, we're going to check in on the Saints fans that are pouring in to the Windy City.
Plus, we'll take a look back at the few years the Saints had the player to get to this point. More importantly, the last 18 months that were pretty bad to start off with.
I'm going to say something that I probably shouldn't say.
Show everybody, some fans have taken the Amtrak train up here to Chicago. Some have driven 15 hours, that's what we did, and some have hopped on a plane like you to be here for the big day.
Flew in today, and if you've never flown into Chicago before, what a breathtaking sight as you come in over the lake, and the skyline is just awesome. Matt Williams has been here for a couple of days with the 9 News crew and caught up with some of the members of the Who Dat Nation.
The city of New Orleans pulled into Union Station Friday morning at 9:30, just about 17 hours after it left the Crescent City. On board, plenty of Saints fans.
No who that? Who that could beat them Saints? Nobody. Nobody.
We'll decide on Sunday whether this is worth the trip or not. So.
Of course, the Saints fans come prepared. I'm not sure how many carry-on bags you get on a train, but a 12-pack of beer probably counts as one. As for the cold, well, the fans aren't buying it.
It's going to affect you all like it's going to affect us. Go Saints all the way to the Super Bowl.
Chicago fans, on the other hand, are thinking Saints fans wasted a lot of money getting up here.
Yeah, that's sad that they actually paid all that money to watch them.
Wait until they get off the train and start shaking, and it's not just because of the cold either.
Of course, not everybody in Chicago is a Bears fan. We found one who was even a Saints fan. He moved out of New Orleans back on August 20th, 2005, just about a week before Hurricane Katrina hit.
I was terrified because my family was still there, and where it hit the hardest was the 9th Ward, and that's where I am from.
His family had to relocate to Houston and Shreveport, but he's here in Chicago, going to school, working, and rooting for his home team.
New Orleans, all I have to say is bring it home to New Orleans Saints. We need it.
But they're going to beat that team.
Nobody.
But they're going to beat that team.
You hear that a lot these days. The Who Dats are everywhere. Still coming up on this special, we're going to talk to the head coach, Sean Payton, NFL Coach of the Year, who is from right here in Chicago.
Plus his sister still living in the area. We'll hear from her as well. But first, let's hear from the big dogs from the Saints and what they think about taking on the Chicago Bears team.
Considering everything that we went through as a team as well as an organization, you know, so many people are pulling for us, and, you know, we'll take it.
We know we got a tough challenge, and we know we're going to have to play a great game in order to get a win here, and so that's our only focus.
We've all been in big games, and we're
We've seen how the Saints fans and everybody are getting here physically to Chicago, but wow, ponder the question, how did we get here to the Saints being on the verge of going to the Super Bowl?
Well, Steve, under the Jim Haslett era, they were basically an 8-8 team. They would always miss the playoffs at the end. And last year, after Hurricane Katrina, the bottom just basically fell out. The Saints played games all over the country, never played in the Superdome, of course, and basically went through hell to get to the heaven they're tasting now.
You could say that for the Saints to get to heaven, they had to go through hell. Jim Haslett's last season, Aaron Brooks as well, a disastrous 3-13. 3 of those losses coming in LSU's half-empty Tiger Stadium, including one to Lovie Smith and the Bears. It's not hard to remember the defense was awful and the offense unorganized and undisciplined. The team's relocation to San Antonio putting further stress on an already fragile relationship between owner Tom Benson and the fan base.
I can take something, throw it away. Go ahead, Benson. You look real good on national TV. I dare you. Come get me, I dare you.
The Benson Boogie, a distant memory. His decision to keep the team's headquarters in Texas, meeting with even more criticism.
We want our Saints. We may not want the owner back. And I'm ready to go to the NFL and to Tagliabue and say, give us the Cleveland plan. You can let whatever the Saints want to do, you let them leave. But they can't take our logo, they cannot take our name, and you give us a promise to give us a franchise when this city is back on its feet.
Like many in New Orleans, we were forced to relocate our team and families in order to survive.
But a new day was on the horizon. And of course, that day was when Mickey Loomis made the decision to bring in Sean Payton as the head coach, and everything has flown from the decisions he's made and from the people he's brought in to run this operation. Today, he held his last news conference before the game, said that Joe Horn is still doubtful with an injury, said that they haven't changed anything in their routine, and that's key to being successful, and also said despite playing a tough Bears defense, he doesn't plan to make any significant changes to his offensive passing or running games.
From a scheme standpoint in the running game, we're not going to change or put in new plays that we haven't been running, and no different than defensively, we're not going to see a whole different defense than the Bears have been running up to this point. Turnovers, field position, those are the things that we're trying to pay as much attention to, because those are the things that will decide the outcome of this game.
Well, coming up after the break, it was the best thing about the Saints losing over the years, listening to what Buddy D had to say after the game. Coming up after the break, a dedication to the Big Daddy of sports and all the squirrels out listening.
Are definitely with us here at Harry Carey's, getting excited about the big game Sunday.
I guarantee you a lot of these people that are here listen to Buddy Diliberto over the years, better known as Buddy D, and as the Saints are making this magical march here, more and more people are starting to talk about Buddy D, even if a lot of them wondered how in the heck did this guy get on the radio to begin with.
I'm going to say something that I probably shouldn't say.
What's this guy saying? He's butchering this sentence. What?
The Purdue team is more or less, they kind of perimeter oriented.
Screw up a word or a pronunciation.
Lynyrd Skynyrd. The band Lynyrd Skynyrd will be in the Dome tonight.
Man, look at this brand new shiny Bitsy Bitsy.
Stephen Perry, when he was Governor Foster's chief of staff.
Oh, let's pick it up with Steve of Chaff, Stephen Perry.
Microscopically.
You know, it's sort of dyslexia, but through sentences, not words.
You must be doing a pretty hell of a good job.
Polished.
For WWL, this is Buzzy D.
Articulate.
WWL.
Smooth.
It had to be you.
Buddy D was not.
Dante Stahlpepper.
Aaron Brooks passed the Saints to victory with an 87-yard touchdown to Dante Stahlpepper.
Hokie Saigon.
One of his funniest gaffes, trying to introduce former LSU Associate Athletic Director Dan Radakovich live on the air.
Joining us now is Dan Radakovich. Is that right? Dan, thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thanks, buddy. I bet you your name was never butchered like that.
No, that's why I changed it to Buddy D.
But through all his garbled rants, Buddy D had an impact on the city of New Orleans, the Saints, and most importantly, its fans, that is undeniable.
Buddy was as much a part of this city as Jackson Square. Buddy was and is New Orleans, plain and simple.
I hate to say this, but I think Buddy D would be known more than Archie Manning in New Orleans. And I'll tell you why. I mean, there are some people that simply do not like football. And Archie Manning didn't transcend football. He was football. Buddy had the highest rated sports show with females in the United States of America. So what's that tell you? I mean, sports aren't for females, but women in New Orleans, do they love sports? Maybe a little, but I think they loved hearing Buddy, the character.
He was blue collar and was a voice of the fans, and I think that's what the fans appreciated.
As most people know, it was Buddy D who created the paper bags for embarrassed fans to cover their faces when the team stunk it up to a 1-15 record in 1980. As a television reporter, he did stand-ups in front of graveyards to mock the hapless team.
They got guys in here that can hit harder than these players.
While many NFL broadcasters play the homer role covering their team, trying to tell you everything will be just fine, or it'll be okay when that particular team gets blown out by 35 points, that bird would not fly with Buddy D.
No, if they lost by 35 points, he wouldn't try to spin anything other than saying, they suck.
Some people thought he might have been too negative, but hey, you got to tell the truth, and there was a lot of bad times.
He led a campaign to land Mike Ditka as the team's coach in the late 90s, and definitely regretted it later.
In year 3, I mean, he was on the air every week saying, he's got to go. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, this team's not prepared for nothing.
Many fans dearly miss the granddaddy of sports. The team he loves so much is now one win away from the Super Bowl. It's a concept that was so ridiculous when he lived, Buddy D made a bet he thought he would never lose.
The bet was that Buddy would wear a dress on Canal Street if the Saints made it to the Super Bowl.
Wilkerson and Hebert will make sure that bet is carried out if the Saints are victorious on Sunday.
They're probably going to have a couple hundred men that's ready to put on that dress. I think we'll call the group Buddy's Broads.
Guys in drag? We'll see if it happens. One thing the WWL crew does believe for sure, Buddy D will be honored very accordingly by the Saints. Somehow, someday.
Don't be surprised if one day, I think it's going to take a little time, but there'll be a banner one day in this. I'm pretty confident there will be a banner one day in the Dome with his name on it.
There's only one home for the legendary voice of Louisiana broadcasters Hall of Famer Buddy D. WWL.
And it may sound a little corny, but you better believe lots of people at that radio station and many of the Houdat Nation believe that Buddy has had a hand in the Saints' success this year.
You know, Jacques, you could make the argument, although he didn't do play-by-play, Buddy D was to the Saints what Harry Carey was to another franchise here in Chicago, the Chicago Bears, and you've got a parallel in that these franchises have been the lovable losers. People love them all over the place, but they have never delivered championships, at least the Saints haven't to this point.
And absolutely, and that kind of what makes, kind of like the Red Sox, where it makes them unique. You know, what happens when you finally do win it one day? You know, you kind of lift that lovable loser tag, but certainly this is going to be a huge, huge monumental day on Sunday.
We've got Coach Payton in the show still.
Absolutely. We'll hear from him and what he has to say about this huge matchup returning to his hometown.
I'm going to sing as loud as thunder, oh, when the Saints go marching in.
Back to Harry Carey's in Chicago, and the coach of the year of the NFL grew up here.
He sure did, and his family probably loyal to Chicago, but Matt Williams tells us they'll be wearing the black and gold.
Sean Payton's sister and her daughter, who live in Skokie, 15 miles north of Chicago, spent part of the week mailing out invitations. Invitations to a game day party to watch her brother's team take on the Bears. Within seconds of finding out the two teams would be playing here in the Windy City, Patrice Payton's phone started ringing.
People were
calling from Pennsylvania, New Jersey. We're like, we're all coming in. We're coming in, yeah. Party, just bring a chair.
While he wasn't born here, Sean Payton calls himself a Chicagoan, having gone to junior high, high school, and college right here.
I was in college when the Bears won that Super Bowl, 85, 86, and then spent a lot of time watching, obviously, the success of the Bulls. And so it's a great sports town, and you know, I think it's a great place to be from.
But make no mistake, Payton says he and his family have quickly fallen in love with their new home, New Orleans.
There's something genuine about the people in this region that it's hard to put a handle on, but we love it, and they've made us feel very welcome.
All right, Sean Payton's from the cold weather, and so are a lot of other guys on this roster. We keep hearing the Saints are a dome team, but think about this. The people who are involved in touching the football. Jeff Fain, Notre Dame, played in cold weather, played for the Cleveland Browns, then came to New Orleans. He'll be making every snap. To Drew Brees. Yes, Drew Brees is originally from Texas. Yes, he plays in a dome, but Drew Brees played his college football at Purdue, John.
Absolutely, and today the Chicago Bears, though, made no bones about it. They're much happier to be here than in that dome.
We want Chicago Bear weather, exactly what we're going to get down there. I think it's different playing up here in the cold. But again, the conditions don't really matter, but if we have to play, we'd rather play in our conditions, and that's what we're going to get this weekend.
All right. So there you have it. Absolutely, the Bears want to play in the snow. They want to freeze the Saints out of here.
We've got a great weekend ahead of us. We hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Heaven on the horizon for Jacques Doucet, Steve Schneider, the rest of our crew. So long, everybody, and go Saints.
Who dat saying to beat them Saints?